Hello everyone, and thank you for the download. It's Friday, May 17th, and this is episode 74 of the Marty Called Podcast. I'm Tim Grassi, and today I'm joined by Skipper Ben. What's up, Ben?
Christopher Morel. Oh, damn it. I thought he was going to hit a home run here, and I was going to, give Eric Miller a hard time that he would be listening during our, during a long run that he's doing right now. But that's a comment for one right there. Don't say we
do
don't
a lot
custom.
of that.
we do that for our people here, but it was a sacrifice fly, so one run scored, and the guy who drove in was one of my players as well. So we're really getting into the weeds here. But yeah, everything's going great, Tim.
It's been almost, an hour and a half since he's homered, so that's pretty good.
Something like that.
Okay.
That's more points for me.
And again, as we say every time, you guys tune into the show for fantasy baseball updates. So we actually have quite a bit of Disney news to address here. We were going back and forth about an Imagineering show because it's been a minute since we've done one of those, but there has been quite a bit of Disney news, and I think we're going to start from the furthest away to the closest and kind of do it that way. So, and by that I mean geographically furthest away. So
I was going to say furthest away. Were you going to say beyond Big Thunder?
No.
Like 12 years down the road.
Geographically, not chronologically.
Got
yes.
it.
Okay. Although it's kind of going the same way. Think of it like the walk from Liberty Square to Frontierland, where we're passing both distance and time. So Fantasy Springs is imminent. In the opening of it, there have been media previews. This is the massive expansion over at Tokyo Disney Sea, the best theme park in the world. Ben, did you know that I went to Japan 8 years ago? Actually, 8 years ago yesterday is when I went.
I just thought you went for a baseball game, but
I did go for a baseball game, and I could talk about that as well, because that was great.
Let's not. No.
I got to see Hiroki Kuroda, who was previously drafted and owned in our fantasy league. We didn't get points for his Japanese outing. Anyway, Fantasy Springs, we are off the rails. So this is a $2 billion expansion to Tokyo Disney Sea. It's in, I guess, the top left corner of the park. I don't know how the park's oriented, but roughly between, I guess, next to the Lost River Delta area. But it includes a Rapunzel section, a Frozen section, and a Peter Pan / Tinkerbell section. And 4 new rides and incredible theming throughout. So I know, as we've said, the best way to view these things is through a YouTube video, and that's how Ben and I have experienced it. We have not been over there. But in a word, amazing. It looks beautiful. It really does. The reviews that are coming out of it say that there's at least one home run of the 4 rides, but all in all, the entirety of the expansion. I mean, how many expansions have we ever had that have had 4 attractions added to it? That itself is pretty impressive.
That Tinkerbell ride is definitely the home run. It's a solid...
It's not bad. I mean, I know what you're talking about, but... It's a classic bus bar ride, and they don't build that type of stuff anymore. It's entirely outdoors, and they're not trying to sell this as an e-ticket, at least that ride. So
it's the kind of ride that we've been begging for in the Florida parks for a while now. We need the little. Not everything has to be an e-ticket. We definitely can use a lot of small things to help kill some time in every one of the parks, and it definitely sticks out as an attraction that you haven't seen them build in a very long time.
Completely.
So it's nice to see that going in over there.
I mean, so I said 4 rides, but over and above that, there is a hotel that is... So there's now 2 hotels that are either in / adjacent to that park, where you can look out from your hotel room and see into the park, which is in itself amazing. Mm-hmm. We don't have that enough stateside. I think really only California Adventure, right?
Well, if you listen
in the park,
if you listen to Jim Hill talk, I think they're going to add a hotel to every expansion that they do in every park around the world from here on out. He hints at, he hears that, he thinks they're going to do that. But
I mean, there's been an Epcot hotel rumor forever, but we'll see when that happens. But I mean, they got $60 billion to spend, so let's see how it's spent. But going through Fantasy Springs, there's a couple of people that have put out some great videos. Tom Bricker has put out some stuff. Chris over at TDR Explorer. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all, Ben.
I've watched his video.
So I obviously have gone on my long diatribe of the one time that I've been over to Tokyo, but I think before Chris was as well known as he was, I was messaging him while we were there.
You were known as the expert of Japanese Disney theme parks.
I was
before.
not. I was so when I was there, I was messaging him throughout the trip. Like, all right, I heard this word. What does it mean? I heard this word. Like trying to translate Japanese, where it's like my butchered audio experience, sending it over to him, and he was great about it. But he was also like soft testing a wait time app as well that he was letting us play with. So he did a great review of it. He had done one previously on the Super Nintendo Land that I had seen, but he did probably a good hour and a half review that included food and really touched on everything. And we often lament that we've switched over to things like generic brown napkins. But if you look at, like, there's themed cups for the area. The snacks each have their own Fantasy Springs specific wrapper. If
the food trays are themed.
Yeah, all of that, and not even just like generic Fantasy Springs, if you want to even call that generic, but it's specific to the location. Yep. All of that is just added detail that goes that's missed that we've. Well, it's been gone for 15 years now. So
I was going to say you said there's 4 attractions here, but even just looking at the dining locations, I could say those were 3 attractions as well. Like, these are not your typical very basic counter service restaurants. Like, each one of these you look at and you're like, I would like to go eat there. I would like to plan times of meals to make sure I get to go to the Snuggly Duckling and
massive too. Like,
they're
tremendous
huge.
Amount of seating.
Yeah. So
the Snuggly Duckling is a perfect example of this. Like, this, it's got like the same expansive 2 menu item list as Gaston's Tavern and seating as expansive as Be Our Guest. It's really a strange setup, but I mean, more dining is a good thing.
Well, and theme dining, like oh man, what's the Satuli Canteen?
Satuli Canteen,
maybe that last well themed one.
Star Wars as well. I would call Docking Bay 7.
Yeah, Docking Bay 7. Yep. And obviously I like connections.
Shipping containers are theming. So
yeah. But gosh, when you think of Docking Bay 7, though, and like I don't think it's a very large seating area at all in there.
No, it's not.
You don't have that problem with these places. They're expecting massive crowds to come in. The Frozen one's just beautiful. The banquet hall.
Completely.
So, and again, they're all 3 counter service, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. I believe they're all counter service.
We got that with Be Our Guest, but obviously Be Our Guest has priced out the normal day guest with the way they do their dining over there now. So I wish we had more counter service like this in the parks over here, because they did such a good job over there. Everything in that place just looks amazing.
Do you ever seek out Be Our Guest at this point?
No, not because of the price point.
You have the price point and just like the barrier to entry. It's not an easy place to get into, and I don't think it's worth. I mean, granted, Magic Kingdom dining just in general sucks.
No, yeah.
This is probably better than most of the quick service places in the Magic Kingdom, but that's not saying anything.
Think about it though. You don't hear people coming out of there that eat there like you have to eat at Be Our Guest.
Oh, definitely not.
Nobody says you have to eat at Be Our Guest anymore at all. Now, when they had the counter I guess quasi counter service for lunch, we did seek that out every time. We tried to do that every trip. Tried to do it multiple times every trip, because that was arguably the best counter service in the park. But once COVID hit and that got taken away, and now it's like $65 I think per person.
Yeah, it's
no,
ridiculous.
I'm good. Yeah.
I'd much rather, if I'm going to spend that much, I'm going to Ohana and leaving full. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So let's talk about the rides. You already mentioned Fairy Tinkerbell's Busy Buggies. It is a couple of surprising things. Like, Japan gets rain. Japan has rainy seasons, and this is entirely outdoors. And granted, there aren't a ton of moving parts, but that in itself is just kind of surprising that they're doing a ride that's entirely outdoors as a pseudo dark ride, although because it's outdoors, not truly a dark ride. But I mean, it's nice. You see like an old school C-ticket attraction being added to a land like this.
I mean, I loved Heimlich's Choo Choo Train.
This is better than Heimlich's. Absolutely better than Heimlich's.
And this is better. Yeah. And
it's longer.
We went out of our way to ride Heimlich's every time. So yeah, having something like that in the park would have been great. And there is the one outdoor audio animatronic as well.
Like the mouse, yeah.
So, yeah, no, it's just a sweet, cute little ride.
Heimlich's, I know that it has its cult following. It wasn't anything that I think it was one and done for me, but I like that these types of things are added. And how many times have we said that Toy Story Land needed something small added to it? I mean, maybe not. The problem that you have in Florida is you get so much rain that you probably couldn't have done this. But if it was entirely outdoors, you have Slinky Dog that's entirely outdoors. So you could have done this as something that just gets closed for the hour a day during the summer. I mean, that wouldn't have been too tall an order, I don't think.
Tim just doesn't like candy corn.
Sure. Yeah.
Come on, that was the best part, the giant candy corn.
Yes.
But no, honestly, this is something I'm still not 100% convinced what the original plan for Slinky Dog was. But every time I ride it, the second part of the attraction, there's just all that open green space that I feel like something was meant to be there. This would be the perfect kind of attraction to kind of wind through that area and give us that fourth attraction over in Toy Story Land. And this is the kind of thing Toy Story Land could use. You're absolutely right, and they have the land for it. So hopefully, this is a big enough success that they could maybe reevaluate that area and give us something that kind of winds around through Slinky Dog. That'd be pretty cool.
I mean, I will say these bus bar type rides are super low capacity. They're, I don't know, probably like 700 guests per hour. I don't remember what the vehicles look like on here, but compared to the other three attractions, which appear to have great capacity, this is probably a much lower capacity ride. But if you're adding three major capacity attractions to it, then you can get away with it. But I mean, if you're going to do this and you add a few of them, say like the Fantasyland and Disneyland 1984 expansion, where you're adding a bunch of them, then it can work out. But that's the reason why it won't happen in Florida, I think, is because they need any of those new additions to be like 1,500 plus per hour. So going at some of the other attractions here, Rapunzel's Lantern Festival, a classic boat ride. I mean, Rapunzel was a moderately successful movie that I think was just vastly overshadowed by Frozen, like a year or two later?
Yeah, but it's definitely had a cult following since its theatrical release. There is a lot of people that love this film.
I think people especially love just the two main characters in it. Flynn Rider definitely has his fans, and obviously Rapunzel has hers. But the complaint about this is that it's short. What did you say? That it made Navi River Journey look long?
Yep, it made it look like It's a Small World.
But I love the indoor-outdoor component of this, where you start out outside, and that outdoor portion with Rapunzel in her tower singing that everybody in the land can see adds. I mean, when you've got both an indoor-outdoor portion of an attraction, you get away with this more in California. You can do it in Tokyo a little bit. It adds a ton of energy to a land that already has a ton of energy because of all the water in it. But it looks great. We always want to see these rides be longer. And I mean, if this was like a 4-minute ride, that's not much shorter than Frozen Ever After over in Epcot. But that finale scene looks absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you can get away with a short ride when the payoff is as massive as this one is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that scene where you just have, I mean, it looks like there's 100 lanterns floating around. Yeah. And it really, really does look incredible. Even with a shorter ride, and I don't know what you'd call this, whether you'd call this a true like D-ticket attraction. We kind of get hung up on those sorts of things. But that payoff is great. And we'll see ultimately, like 6 months from now, where it settles from a wait time standpoint. But at least initially, I'd wait an hour for it. Maybe not on subsequent visits, but like if it's pigeoned into that like Navi River Journey wait time thing where you're like 20 to 30 minutes and you get that big payoff at the end, that absolutely works.
I think the interesting thing here is the boats seem to be they have I don't know what the capacity on each boat was, but they seem to be much larger than
weren't they like 5 across?
And I think that's the problem with Navi is while the ride is short and you would think they could run boats through quickly, the there's just not a lot of capacity. So having a short ride like this with large boats that hold a lot of people.
Yeah, it'll be a people eater.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what this kind of wait time ends up being when this opens to the public in, a year from now. I think this one could eat people up quick. 'Cause that's the thing with Navi, that I love it, but there are a lot of people waiting an hour. Nobody wants to wait an hour for Navi. Right. But if it's in that 25 to 45 minute range, to me, it's a cool enough attraction that's no problem. But once it hits 60 and above, during the busy seasons, it's an automatic turnoff and nobody wants to go do that. But, and the other thing with Navi compared to this, and again, it's the payoff. You don't have to worry about like the Shaman of Songs issue where she could be down and it's just a screen, and then your payoff, you're really questioning yourself if you've waited an hour plus and you get the screen version of the ending. Whereas this one, you're going to get that scene. You're going to there's nothing. I mean, maybe the AAs aren't working, and they just put them stationary at that point, and you at least still get the lanterns, and you get that big wow moment as you go in. So this one I think is going to be popular for a long time. I think people are going to love it, and it's an interesting concept, that indoor outdoor. They haven't really done that in a while themselves either.
And I mean, like, that park also has 20 more rides than Animal Kingdom. That's hyperbole.
Yeah.
The park is, and yes, there's going to be a recency bias. I mean, Toy Story Mania still has a really big draw over there, as an example. I'm looking at wait times right now. Toy Story Mania, I believe, has the longest wait in the park because those attractions aren't officially open. And that's a park that has a ridiculous attraction lineup. But there will be a recency bias to this, but I think, to Ben's point, it looks like it's a high-capacity attraction, probably on par with, say, like the Sinbad attraction over there. But that and Frozen have very large boats. I think it's 5 across 4 rows, maybe even 5 rows. But that will help. And once the newness wears off, you'll see it settle in. I mean, Sinbad is a great attraction that's longer, and it's something that we would ride daily and never wait more than 5 minutes. And that's entirely possible. That's where this slots in when you look at the rest of the attractions over there. But
I guess one thing I'm glad this is all opening now, because I do hope the capacity on these rides work the way they want. Because as we sit here stateside anticipating a bunch of expansions in our parks, I hope they're able to take some of this stuff that they're learning right now to see how things work, to see if this is the right size for the vehicles. And I mean, obviously Disney loves boat rides, so I would guess we're getting 1 or 2 boat rides over here at least with whatever they end up doing. I hope they can take whatever's working well in these parks and use it here, or if it doesn't work well, they're at least being the guinea pigs over there for what we're going to be getting soon.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know if there's any exclusivity for these, but I mean,
well, even if there's not exclusivity, there's definitely not exclusivity on like the boat. Like they know like the boats for those 2 rides.
Yeah, you retheme those boats and you
retheme those to something else. But that ride system, the everything about it, they can at least get the testing for the ride systems out of the way over there, and hopefully they bring the best of what they're getting to us here and use it in whatever IPs they put in.
Right. So the other 2 attractions, we have Peter Pan's Neverland Adventure, a different take on a Peter Pan attraction. This is very screen-based. Initially, when I watched it the first time, I thought it might have been a trackless version, kind of closer to Ratatouille. It appears to be a lighter, more mild version of Spider-Man. It's track on a track. I don't think it still has the same motion. It doesn't have as many moving parts, but it's a completely different take on a Peter Pan attraction. It'll be interesting to see
you meant Spider-Man at Universal.
Yes, that's right. Yes, that's exactly what I meant.
And the reason you said that, though, because when I saw it, and I don't know if this is true, I've just seen the one ride through and really the one load station, they look like they were 2 connected ride vehicles that gave me Toy Story Mania vibes.
So this definitely, I went back and forth with a couple people on it and was told Spider-Man is probably the better comparison.
Yeah. I guess I was kind of going with the connectivity of moving them through, but there was a lot of screaming on the video that I watched that quickly made me go, okay, there's a lot of movement to these as well. So yeah, I guess I need to see a little bit more of exactly how these are going through. Are two going through at a time? Is it truly just one at a time moving through like a Spider-Man? I couldn't get that on my own there, but there was enough yelling and screaming by the young ladies on the attraction that there's definitely a lot of movement going on.
There's definitely pitch and yaw. It's hard to tell a screen-based attraction how good it is.
Upsy downsies and lefty righties. Come on.
Yeah, sorry. That's for Josh. Actually, I wanted to go back to something about the Fairy Tinkerbell's Busy Buggies. Josh would always talk about, I say this as if he's no longer with us. Josh always talks about fairies as well as just the charm
Tinkerbell's
of an
costume.
But that the Busy Buggies is a charming attraction.
Yeah.
And not everything has to be Rise of the Resistance. Not everything has to be over the top. Adding those C tickets that, lengthen your day, not something you're going to do every day, but are good for especially the younger kids, is a welcome addition. So speaking of younger kids, I believe only Peter Pan's Neverland Adventure I think that's the only attraction of the 4 that would have a height requirement, which is nice as well. So this, again, need to hear more firsthand reviews of it. It's only in previews right now, but if you were to watch a video of Spider-Man at Islands of Adventure, it would look good, but it wouldn't look as good as it would on the ride. That experience has to be done in person. That's absolutely an example. Most screen-based attractions are examples of things that just aren't done appropriate justice with a YouTube video. So,
yeah, I think I don't know what I was expecting with this attraction. I think during the construction, the only thing I ever heard about it, because it was kept well under wraps exactly what this thing was, but somebody put out there that they had heard it was like a new version of the Soarin' technology.
Okay.
So I was kind of feeling maybe more along the lines of that. So seeing as it is, this is probably the one I was the most let down with.
Okay.
And I don't mind a screen-based attraction. Of course, this one has your going over a waterfall effect, like it seems every one of these rides has to have at Disney.
Sure, yeah, it definitely has that same vibe as Runaway Railway.
Yeah. The one thing I was disappointed about, though, when you get into the large screen rooms, they did the worst parts from Ratatouille, and that's where you can see the ceiling and you can see the end of the screens on those big rooms. When you're going through the smaller sections that are tighter, the screens are framed around physical sets. They don't do that in the large room. So I that's the only thing that kind of takes me out of it right away is you can see the edges of a screen. This really does feel like you're in front of a movie screen now for this section of the attraction. So everything else is so great with this expansion that's probably a nitpick, but it's
it's one of 4 rides too, though.
Yeah.
So they didn't anchor everything on this single attraction, which is so often what's done.
No, but to me, it kind of stands out a little bit of they did so well theming literally everything else about every square inch of this area that it seems like it was just odd that they chose for these sections of the ride, we're going to be in a warehouse building in a movie screen. Even if I don't know what you would put up there, put some cloud effects, put some physical clouds to where the sky's blending in with whatever. It just was something that took me out from that POV. Again, not fair to say, criticize it from a POV. Maybe it is a tighter, maybe you're closer to that screen that then the video's giving off. And so it's not as apparent, but in the video that I saw, it is quite apparent. So that was the only small little nitpick there.
I mean, in general, and I say this as a massive fan of Spider-Man over at Islands of Adventure, I'm not going to gravitate towards the put you in front of a screen and shake you around attractions. It's just not what I gravitate towards. And that there was a stretch where that was all Universal was doing in various ways, shapes, or forms.
Yeah.
This does kind of feel like that old Universal style of attraction, but at the same time, we're not seeing it in person. We're watching it on a YouTube video. But it also seems that the consensus opinion is that the Frozen attraction is the runaway hit of this land. Sorry, you wanted to say more on Peter Pan? Sorry.
Yeah, just one thing. And it does give me some Ratatouille vibes on the Disney side.
Okay.
And I like Ratatouille. I do like it a lot. But the parts that I don't like about Ratatouille are, again, those like 3 moments where you're just in front of a big screen.
Mm-hmm.
I love the part where you're in front of the big screen and like the cart is above you. And it feels like you're underneath the cart, and you don't see the top of the screen.
Of physical
so that's all I'm talking about there. Is like if you were able to figure out a better way to kind of theme that area, as opposed to just being like I'm in front of a movie screen and that's it. I think it would take it to the next level. As it is, it seems like a fun ride. The yelling and screaming. that was actually the kind of exciting part for me. I was like, oh, this is more than just going in front of screens and kind of moving along a story. Like, this evidently does have some thrill to it, and especially if you're doing an attraction where you're getting dusted with pixie dust and you're supposed to be flying around, it is nice to see that at least it seems like they pulled off that effect, and it does seem like you're flying around with Peter Pan on this attraction.
I like that you're seeing the Lost Boys. I really like.
Yeah.
You're seeing different things than what we've seen in Peter Pan's flight for the last 50 years, 60 years.
I did like, there's the one section with Tiger Lily. And I think I saw the one comment was, well, I guess they're not going to take those characters out of Florida in Disney. like you got the brand new ride. Now we're going to lean into it. You're going to have the Tiger Lily. You have the Native American section. We're going to leave all that in. So
again, different culture though. I mean, honestly,
it is. No, it definitely is.
The Oriental Land Company has no problem with things.
When's Tiana open up over there?
Dated understandings. I think what may happen, you say that Tiana's opens and it's a runaway hit, as we're hoping it will be. That's when they'll ask for it. They probably won't add it. They'll do the overhaul, is my guess. But
they'll build a new theme park around it. That's true, because they're awesome over there.
So let's move over to Anna and Elsa's Frozen journey.
Amazing.
We this kind of like creeped out. We were seeing bits and pieces of it, and then we finally saw a full ride through. Finally, like 2 days later. Yeah. And my initial reaction to Ben was, in general, I'm not a fan of book report rides. And let's not sugarcoat it. That's what this is. Mm-hmm. But it's also the definitive Frozen ride. There are some incredible practical effects mixed with projection mapping. The queue is unbelievable. The queue is, I mean, far and away the best Fantasyland type queue that we've ever seen. And it's a very good queue and a very solid ride. It is what a family-friendly dark ride should be.
I was blown away by it. I think we our initial text to each other. I was kind of surprised by your reaction, because I was ready to put it, in my where does this rank in like the top 3 dark rides I've ever seen category. I love it. I think it looks amazing. It is a book report ride, but it's a book report ride done the right way, if that makes sense. Like they did the story justice. You got a little bit of everything. You've got effects on this that we have never seen in a theme park attraction before. Sure. We got effects in this that you would never think you'd see in just a standard Fantasyland type dark ride. Like, this is stuff like I'm expecting to be like in an Indiana Jones adventure type attraction, and we're getting it in a Frozen ride. So,
I mean, we see what they did effects-wise in Rise of the Resistance. There's some great practical effects where they threw the kitchen sink at that attraction. There are similar components in this, and that, I mean, we didn't see it on these first few videos of it. That frozen fountain effect. In that scene where you've got like the spikes of ice combined with that frozen fountain, it is incredible. And when you see how it's done, it's actually rather, all things considered, rather simple, but it looks great. It really does. And that goes back to those classic Haunted Mansion effects that are rather simple but look great. And that's what you want to see, because those are things that typically don't break down. So.
Well, and even before seeing how that water fountain effect was done, that scene to me was a holy shit moment.
Yeah, like, that's a great scene.
To me, I'm like, I've got to see this someday. Like, this is a must do. It's a on the, we've talked as a family here, like, we want to go to Japan. We want to do this trip, and that's going to be one of the top priorities when we get there, is to do this attraction, mainly to see that scene. Very impressive. And I do like. Somebody commented about like all the AAs that are in it, and like the what's the last AA in that scene, the old man.
Yeah.
I forget his name, but they're like, I never thought I'd see a auto animatronic of that character in an attraction ever. And there was no shortage of putting those characters in the ride. And again, these are the new figures. They just look stunning. The new figures are amazing. They were great on Rapunzel. They were great here. There's so much.
Figures were more primitive, I think. I think there's more primitive figures in Rapunzel. There's probably a few good ones, but this is where they put the bulk of the great cartoon character AAs in the land. And we love us some AAs.
The Let It Go scene also amazing. The size and scope of that room is another thing I want to see in person. It's cool on Frozen Ever After, but that room seems to be multiple times larger than what we have at Epcot. And just the projection mapping on the walls, the effects in there, so freaking cool. Though somebody did make a comment though, and I do agree with this. If they could have pulled this off, I think we would just be ranting. We'd be raving about this attraction. But the one scene where you're going up the lift hill to go into Elsa's castle, like in the movie, she walks up the side of that mountain. If they could have figured out a way to have that Elsa figure walking along your boat as you're going up there, holy crap. But it's nice having that one figure at the very top and then going inside the ice castle and getting that whole transformation scene. Very, very, very cool. There's little that I don't love about what I've seen about this attraction.
I think, and Tom Bricker's right up of it, he said, this is truly a no-notes attraction, that they did a very good job with. There's some other things where you didn't have to. We had a show. You didn't have to, but you did. Mm-hmm. There is a scene where Elsa is standing at the top of a staircase and her dress is moving with her. Just subtle things like that.
We haven't even talking about the Frozen Anna yet.
And so I was going to get to the Frozen Anna. I think when we were first going back and forth, again, we probably had seen video of, say, I don't know, half the ride. One of the comments that I made that there wasn't a true wow moment, and I think this was before I saw the Frozen Fountain effect, but in the Beauty and the Beast attraction over in Tokyo and the Shanghai Pirates attraction, there's a couple of, I assume it's Pepper's Ghost-esque effects where you see a stationary figure transition behind a Pepper's Ghost wall. It's basically a stationary figure with projection mapping directly on the figure, and I think it's a great effect.
Yep.
And it's probably simpler than what's going on in Beauty and the Beast and Shanghai Pirates, but it's still a great effect. Yeah. And certainly a scene worth calling out. But there's quite a few great visuals in this attraction, and when you have good AAs, I don't know what this attraction costs. This is probably a $300 million attraction. I mean, they spent $2 billion on the land. Yeah. So if this was a $300 million attraction, I think we'd say, that makes sense.
I think we were, so I was somewhat joking, but also somewhat serious. I think the whole Arendelle section that they did here was just stunning. The restaurants, the shops, the attraction, obviously itself, that it was done so well that I joked to you that if they announced tomorrow that they're going to put this entire area of Arendelle in Animation Courtyard and leave Frozen Ever After in Epcot, I'd go, okay, sure, why not? It makes no sense, choice, but I would love to see what they did there over here. I'd find some way to be okay with it. Or is there a way to, maybe we get the Coco ride at Epcot. We can just close down Frozen Ever After, gut that whole backstage area. All we'll have is Norway back, and we can put Arendelle over in another park and give some real estate back to Mexico at Epcot. But yeah, you see this attraction compared to our Frozen Ever After, and it'll be interesting doing Frozen Ever After for the first time after seeing this and kind of being like, oh man, there's a vastly superior of this version of this ride somewhere, and I want to ride that more.
Think of the people over in Hong Kong who got a beautiful land.
Yeah.
A beautiful land with a short roller coaster, but again, aesthetically,
I think it's a cool looking coaster.
Aesthetically, it's very interesting, but it's Goofy's Barnstormer themed as an e-ticket. And then you've got like the better version of Frozen Ever After, but the ride, even though it's better than what's in Epcot, is immediately outdated and one-upped within 4 months, 3 months? So
yeah, you've just got to wonder the thought process on all that. Because, these things were announced very close in timeline, and they opened, obviously, very close in timeline. So all of this was in production at the same time.
Completely.
I would guess land consideration is one thing.
Budget as well. I mean, this is far more expensive than Frozen Ever After.
Yeah. It's interesting with the choices they make. It goes back to our argument of Ratatouille and Beauty and the Beast being built at the same time, and like Beauty and the Beast could have worked at Epcot in the France section. Why did they go with Ratatouille over that? I'm fine with Ratatouille. I'm not going back there.
I think Ratatouille is a better thematic fit, but Beauty and the Beast is a better attraction.
It is the better attraction. So yeah, this one's very interesting that you've got these two attractions being built at the exact same time, and everybody that's building them knows one is vastly superior to the other. And you're right, the timing of it is just like, it is outdated immediately. At least with Epcot, so we can be like, well, we've had ours for 8-9 years now. So you guys are just getting yours now. We've been riding Frozen for a long time. But
I mean, we questioned first off, Frozen Ever After, the original, was a retrofit. Yeah. And the fact that they've cloned it, they've cloned it in Hong Kong, and they're cloning it in France too, right?
I don't know if that's official. That's a good question. Which version are they getting in France?
I would assume they're getting like the Hong Kong version of it. So, like, yes, it's an expanded version of it, but
that area that's been budget cut. It sounds like quite a bit, though.
If any of our listeners care about France,
yeah.
But the other interesting thing here, again, it took a couple of viewings of it. I wasn't sure how or what type of boat ride this was. This is not the Shanghai Pirates tech. This is track switches. This is effectively using Maelstrom's tech, but to a better degree. Yeah. So the difference, Shanghai Pirates, the way that I understand it works is under the water, there's effectively two pegs coming down from the boat, and that's how they direct it. But this is using track switches and mechanisms like that to direct your view and your attention here. But either way, the effect is great. And I don't know when I'll get a chance to ride this, but I'm looking forward to it. And I will say, though, when you look at Tokyo Disney Sea, there's no single attraction there that I think is better than, say, Rise of the Resistance. I just think Rise of the Resistance is an incredible attraction, but it's the entirety of that attraction lineup that is just so high quality. And we're talking about 4 additions here that, I mean, Anna and Elsa's Frozen Journey, by all accounts, seems to be the number one thing here, but you're not talking slouches for the other 3 attractions either.
No.
So that's easily a land with, once wait times return to normal, that you can spend several hours in, like any Fantasyland, and this lineup is as good as any Fantasyland in the world. So
it's what, and we'll get into this,
except maybe Tokyo Disneyland's Fantasyland, but still.
This will lead us into our next conversation, but it's exactly what we're hoping for in any kind of expansion announcements that we get here stateside. It's not a, hey, we're going to build an expansion with one ride and one restaurant. Like, this is a true expansion of a park.
Yep.
And we can only hope and pray that when these announcements start coming out, they're on the level of this. Not, we've always said that on here. Not back to Josh's thing about charming attractions. Not everything has to be Rise of the Resistance.
Right.
We're okay with that. Give us one if you want to. That's cool. But we love good dark rides. We love good old school Disney dark rides. We love simple attractions that make sense in an area that complement the big e-ticket attractions. So, and that's exactly what they did here. This is in my opinion, an absolute home run. I was very excited, about this time last year, just thinking in my head about all these new rides coming online at all the parks around the world and all the new ride-throughs that we're going to see and this and that. And I've been happy with pretty much everything that's come out, but this is the one that is just above and beyond anything that we could have hoped for. So, bravo. And it's an expansion worthy enough of making people contemplate visits. And that's exactly what you want out of any kind of new attractions at any park.
Completely.
So they did a great job.
If you're spending money to stay at a monorail resort in Florida, you can go to Japan. The barrier to get over there, your plane ticket is going to be more expensive than, say, a domestic flight, but at the same time, you're going to be paying less for hotels, you're going to be paying less for food, you're going to be paying less for tickets.
Yep.
You can do it. If you're spending a week in the Grand Floridian, you can absolutely make this trip happen.
That's 90% of our listeners that do that.
Exactly, Mr. DVC. So you touched on it. We have I say imminent. That is, imminent means like 7 years down the road in in Disney speak. But since we last did a show, Disneyland Forward was approved officially. I think that it needed 2 rounds of approval. I believe we were at step 1 prior to our last show recording, but Disney can move forward with whatever form Disneyland Forward will take. But there is a very large
properties.
There's a very large stretch of land that runs kind of alongside Disneyland and California Adventure. There's enough land for a new park. It's not really lined up that way. I'm expecting expansion to the existing parks, but we may see some information on that come August during the D23 Expo. It might be too early, but they've been talking about this for a couple of years now. So this might be where the Avatar expansion goes, if that doesn't go elsewhere in DCA. But that in itself is exciting. And then the other is the imminent closure of Thunder Mountain. The expectation is that's probably going to close this fall for a retrack, and they will use that time to presumably build up a pathway around it. Whether that goes along the waterfront, whether the waterfront changes, whether it is somehow created a pathway around the train station, something will be done to get guests back beyond Big Thunder when they're ready to do that. But it sounds like the timing of a Thunder Mountain closure will happen before the end of this year, and hopefully we will also see those lift hill effects that we were promised 27 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think both of these things are, they're getting stuff lined up on the runway. You got planes ready for takeoff here, and I'm sure that's why Bruce Vaughan came back. I'm sure that's why, in part, Joe Rohde it has some sort of a role. If they're getting the band back together and they're ready to spend some money, there's reason to be optimistic here. Now, I also think, to expectation set, we're probably talking 5 to 7 years before any of us are setting foot in these big expansions stateside. I don't know if you have any even further optimism than that, but that's kind of what this is lining up for me. Yeah,
I'm hoping we get all these announcements at the next D23. And when I say next, I mean not this upcoming one that you've already paid money to go to. I hope it's the one after, so I can make fun of you again this time. Yeah, I don't know. I guess the biggest thing I have to do with all this is that I'm now more excited about whatever might be coming our way because of what's just recently opened. I hope we're getting... This seems like a new era in Disney Imagineering. They seem to have... I don't know. I think everything that we saw about the Fantasy Springs stuff, maybe the best way to describe a lot of these attractions is they were just fun. They were whimsical. They have a Disney feeling again, which makes me hopeful for whatever they add to these parks. I do think with Disneyland Forward, like you said, we're looking at 2 expansions, 1 to each park. It just makes the most sense to me. That area is not big enough, I don't think, for... It is big enough for a theme park.
It's big enough, it's just oddly shaped.
It's very oddly shaped, and I just don't know how that would work. But it does work perfect to add 2 bridges to the I guess they would be the west side of those 2 parks, and build over there and give those parks more capacity. Nothing wrong with that. I hope Disney... Well, I don't know. I guess doing that can add how many more individual Lightning Lane attractions, this and that. I was going to say they would go for the theme park just to have a 3rd gate so they can charge us more there. But they'll find ways to charge us for more stuff either way. So, but yeah, no, this is where I'm a little scared, though. This does seem such on the front burner, the Disneyland Forward, that I hope this doesn't take the majority of what we need in Florida. I hope they don't put everything into Disneyland Forward and just do a little bit in Florida, because I know Bob Iger yesterday said that they're not worried about Epic Universe, but they should be. And
he also said that every new thing is going to be IP based for the most part.
That's not shocking. So we're not getting...
That's not really news. It's just reaffirming what we know.
We're not getting Western River Expedition.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope that the majority of this money they have earmarked does not end up just going to Disneyland stuff. Florida needs it. Florida needs it in all their parks. There are major, major, major issues in those parks right now. And the only thing that's going to fix it is money and attractions.
Still some money at the problem.
Yeah. because Universal will. I mean, let's not forget, the Epic Universe is being built with, 2 expansion pads ready to go right off the bat.
Right.
And enough land for another theme park if they decide to do something. If this is a huge hit, they're going to expand quickly, and then they're going to sit there and go, what's the next thing we can do? They will keep taking shots. They're not afraid to throw money at the problems, and money has solved a lot of their problems in that company. And so, yeah, I guess that's my biggest thing there. There is a lot of hope now on what we could be getting if the attractions that we got in Tokyo are any indication of what we could get with a Coco ride, what we could get with a Moana ride, things like that. That has me very excited for what the future holds, and I hope we start getting answers for that come August, despite my joy it would be if you were just miserable at the Honda Center again.
I will give you some praise for praising Comcast as an employee of Bally Sports.
Yeah, that's not easy for me to do at the moment, but, is what it is.
So, side note, I think the upcoming expo is probably going to be more focused on Disney World. I think they're just that much further ahead on projects that they've been talking about already. It doesn't mean that there won't be announcements for Disneyland. I imagine that we'll probably see a little bit more detail on Pandora over there, but I think they are ready to move forward on more Disney World projects right now. And again, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. It wouldn't surprise me if we see a Disneyland Forward thought exercise like we've seen the last few expos, because they've had the tendency to, for lack of a better word, neglect Disneyland at these things. But going back to Anna and Elsa's Frozen Journey and the quality that's there, we have a new attraction that's opening June 28th. It's a redo of an existing attraction that's replacing Splash Mountain, and that's Tiana's Bayou Adventure. We've seen the animatronics. We've seen what they've done with Anna and Elsa's Frozen Journey. We know where the bar is. The footprint of Splash Mountain, the ride path of Splash Mountain, is a good 3 to 4 minutes longer than Anna and Elsa's Frozen Journey. Is that our point of comparison and expectation for Tiana's Bayou Adventure? I think it has to be.
Yeah, I think so.
And we talked about how they can't skimp on this, and we've seen the animatronics, and it looks like they're not skimping on this.
Yep.
Whether there's any effects, practical or otherwise, that rival some of those effects that are in Anna and Elsa's Frozen Journey remains to be seen. It looks like the AA lineup will be there. But the opening date is June 28th, and Ben is desperately trying to get in on a preview.
Got one maybe inside right now, but if any of our wonderful listeners out there have other hookups, I'll be there during the cast member previews. I will be heading home 3 days before the AP previews, unfortunately. So, but I will be out there for all the first wave of cast member previews. So, who knows? Maybe something will fall into place. But again, after what I've seen in Tokyo, my expectations for this are very, very, very high.
I think they have to be.
Yep, I'm super excited for this attraction. I think it's going to be amazing, and I think there are some surprises in there that are absolutely going to blow us away, like that one scene in Frozen, for sure.
I mean, it wasn't even just that one scene. That one scene is great, where you have that frozen fountain, but the combination of just consistently good animatronics that hopefully stay working. Yep. You got to put that caveat out there.
With this one, though, I mean, you're dealing with voodoo, magic, things like that. Like there's story elements in that movie that tend to, if they want to get really creative with a couple effects in a couple of the show scenes, they could do some really cool stuff. So I'm holding out hope that they're going to surprise us with some stuff. But based on what we've seen on the AAs already, though, I'm fine with that's all it is. It's just AAs that we pass by at the quality level that they've done them as. I'm fine with that too.
We will probably be talking about this, because whether Ben gets on it or not, after his upcoming trip, we will have seen video. You've got 3 weeks of previews, 4 weeks of previews ahead of this. There's going to be video leaking out very soon. I would imagine probably within 2.5, 3 weeks. So looking forward to viewing it from there. We know that the ride layout is great. That the one thing that we know that it probably already has over any of those things that open in Fantasy Springs is a great attraction layout. Splash Mountain is a remarkably paced out ride. They're not changing the flume at all. So you've got a very nice canvas to play with, and we've seen what they've done. They've teased it pretty well. So if we've seen what the bar is at Anna and Elsa's Frozen Journey, now you've got that on a 10-minute ride. Sign me up. I'm very much looking forward to this. And unfortunately, I won't be able to go on it until probably January. But.
And just a reminder to our any of those cast member listeners out there, my Twitter is backside_water and my DMs are open.
So why don't you go into the rest of your trip planning as you hit on some of our listeners here. So this is the four of you, right?
It's the four of us. I have 2 via Napoli dining reservations and 1 for Planet Hollywood. So we're done. That's all the trip planning. We're out.
So Planet Hollywood gets a bad rap, and for a while probably deserved.
We love it. Yep.
You go there pretty regularly, right?
We go every trip.
Okay.
We absolutely love it. It's a fun experience, especially at night. That dome inside there is a fun experience. There's all kinds of movie cups playing, sing-alongs. The food, I think, definitely gets a bad rap. We enjoy our meals there every single time. I get the old Captain Crunch chicken, which is what they've been famous for since Planet Hollywood first opened. Lisa gets a lasagna that she just is like a must-do every trip for her. The kids have a blast in there. They regularly change out the movie memorabilia. So that's pretty cool to go in there every time and see new things in there if you're into that kind of stuff. And we get a DVC discount on it as well. So you threw my DVC shade at me earlier. I get 20% off my meal, which is a big player when it comes to long trips. You take those discounts anytime you can get them. So we do have a night, but we're doing this for really kind of another reason. We have a 7 p.m. reservation.
Cookies. Oh, sorry.
Oh, it is. And that actually...
Not at Gideon's. Not at Gideon's. Let's be clear. Not at Gideon's.
I support Gideon's, not the employee. No, I'm kidding. I don't. I haven't read any of that stuff. Once I saw that, I quickly just went, this is why I go to Summer House and and stayed out of the whole Gideon's talk. But no, we have a 7 p.m. dinner reservation there. With plans to go to Gideon's, God, you got me saying that. Plans to go to Summer House right after you get cookies, because the west side is going to be the, from what I understand, the best viewing area for the new nighttime drone show. With Disney Dreams in Flight, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. We are excited to see that one night. So we're going to make a whole evening down at Disney Springs so we can get over there and see the drones flying. The video they put out yesterday was very impressive. I do like the one note that the Death Star scene, the Death Star is actually larger than Spaceship Earth. So that's going to be pretty cool to see flying out that way. So we're excited for that.
One of the ideas, and I don't remember who it was, I think it was on WDW Magic that I saw it, but on the heels of the Main Street Electrical Parade drone show, or Main Street Electrical Parade inspired drone show over in Paris, an Ask was a Spectromagic version of it, which I think would be great. I love that music. And that's not on the table here for this show, but I'm welcoming Disney's addition of drones into Disney World. I wish they would use them in the parks. We've said that. But I hope this is something, I know it's got a limited run, but something that they continue to do in some way, shape, or form. And whether it evolves like the various projection shows that they've done, and that when they have the ability to do it and they see how popular it is, I'm sure they'll keep it. And if nothing else, if it brings more people to Disney Springs for dining, that's going to help out the restaurants there as well.
They're going to, and that's why we're doing what we're doing that night, is exactly that, to see that show. So this, to me, is something that they need to, wouldn't shock me if they extend this run. It's a pretty limited run to begin with, but if it's as popular as I think it could be, if they don't extend it, for them to quickly come up with something else to draw people there, it makes total sense. And it definitely, we've talked about the whole deal about how they're worried about the drones flying over people for liability reasons. Doing this over the lake takes all that liability right out of it. You have a massive area that you could do something really cool with. It makes a ton of sense to do something like this down at Disney Springs. And I'm sure those restaurants would absolutely love Disney investing in something like that on a nightly basis to pull people in.
I know we have Disney lawyers listening on this show, or listening to this show. How often does a guest get hit with like a firework cast off relative to get hit by a drone. I mean,
yeah.
What I think as technology improves, drone tech has now evolved over the last 10 years. And yes, when it was first introduced, that may have been more of a risk than it is today. But I mean, I've said it time and time again over at Epcot. You've got bridges. There's another direction you can go. You can go underneath guests as well to get stuff out into the lagoon in Epcot, and that's to me is an obvious thing. There's areas in the Magic Kingdom where they could do it behind the castle where it would work. There's plenty of space to do it. And actually, even over at Hollywood Studios, that fireworks launching area that they did that was kind of off-center from the Chinese theater, you could launch them from there and they'd still be visible in the night sky. So there's absolutely avenues for them to do these in the parks.
You say that. I would think that the old Great Movie Ride show building is large enough to be a launching pad off that roof and just go vertical right above it.
They do require a ton of space when you're talking, several hundred of these drones. But I mean,
that show building is quite large. Point, at least. Yeah. That show building is huge.
It is a massive show building. It is.
So yeah, no, we're excited to see this show. And yes, Summer House is priority. We plan on getting one of every cookie over our 12 days that we're there. I've been told the Dreamsicle is the must buy. I know it looked good when I saw it, but it was...
That's the name you danced under, actually, right?
It is. Hello, ladies. So we'll be doing that. My girls actually want to eat at Summer House. I went to go make an ADR for it, but notice that you can't make ADRs for that on the My Disney Experience app. So
did they send you to like a third party?
No, there was no option for it at all. So I don't know if it's just walk-ups or what, but we'll see if we can get in there. It's a large area. I could see them not necessarily needing ADRs. There's so much seating in that place that they can probably just swallow people up or have 15 to 20 minute waits and be fine with that. So, but yeah, we might get that in the mix. But outside of that, the only other reservations we do have is RV via Napoli.
Okay,
we got 2 dining reservations for that. But, and maybe this is because we're coming off the heels of a recent quick trip back in March, but, and I mentioned it coming off that trip, and my girls have not stopped talking about this, but I do think we're going to mix it up a bit more, especially when we're at my Magic Kingdom dining-wise. They're at the age now where they, oddly, are getting a little bit more adventurous with their dining, and I know they want to go hit the resorts on the monorail loop for lunches or dinners, so... We'll see how that plays out. We've never done that before. We've never ran out and gone over to the Poly real quick to eat and come back. We've always done the old Cosmic Rays, Pinocchios, but I think you can only have those flatbreads or pizzas and hot dogs, hamburgers so many times before you just get absolutely sick of them. So we're going to get that in the mix. And it's probably a little easier to do, especially Magic Kingdom's a park that we always have Genie Plus at. That's the one where I always buy it. So, you can stack some reservations early afternoons where you can sneak out of the park for a little bit, go over there, eat at Captain Cook's or something, and then come back and have, 2 or 3 rides ready for you right when you get back. So I think we're going to, this will be a new twist on our visiting experiences where, before we were go to the parks in the morning and stay in the parks all day. We might mix it up a good bit more than we have in the past.
So when it's adults touring, the touring plan is different. And your kids are getting to the age where the rides are not necessarily the same priority as they were last year or even 5 years ago. So that in itself is an evolution of how the Rebstock family is going to tour, which is interesting to see whether they truly change things, whether food and wine motivates your timing of trips in the future. You're going to miss food and wine this year, which I think they're cutting out to where they're not actually going to have a festival going on while you're there. Is that what the timing is?
That's the timing. So that'll be different. I'm still not convinced they won't have those food carts open or something to generate some kind of revenue. They just might not have an official name going on for it. But. So, but again, we're our dining at Epcot's pretty locked down between Via Napoli and Connections, so we don't get too adventurous out that way. So I'll mix in the crepe cart and the crepe restaurant in France. The girls had that last time, and I think that's now on the must do list whenever we're in that park as well.
So you're not going to have much. I mean, assuming you can get on Tiana's, great. I hope you do. But aside from Tiana's, which I don't want to dismiss that, you're not going to really have anything that's new to you guys on this trip, right? Yeah.
Nothing, especially since going in March, which makes our visit a little bit different.
Yeah.
Because in March, if you remember, the 3 days we went after the cruise, the parks were dead.
Right.
Dead. And we did so much that I'm already going into this trip feeling like I've done a lot of things real recent. And I don't have that. I'm not worried about like, oh, we got to get on this or, oh, we got to go do that. It's like we did all that like a month and a half ago and we did it several times. So, yeah, we definitely want to do everything again, but it's not the stress level is way down compared to what it usually is at this point where like, oh, we got to have so many days here, go so many days there, make sure we do this, make sure we do that. We did it all. We did it all a lot. And now I'm hoping that leads to a relatively chill 12 days in the parks this time. We're staying on property the entire time. We're not using DVC this time, but we are staying at Riverside the entire time. Our last trip last summer, we stayed at Riverside for half the trip. Fell in love with the pool area there. Just kind of fell in love with the entire resort. I've said this recently to a couple. I think I even said to you, but I said it to some friends here that it's something weird with the moderate resorts where it's kind of like the moderates are locked into the late 80s through mid 90s time period.
There's a lot of 90s vibe in the moderate,
even
I think.
to the point that if you go back and look at your old like VHS tapes or your brochures and your books, like the lobby of like French Quarter is still the same. It's exactly the same. The same with Riverside. Like all the building, they all are the same from that time period. There's been very few updates. The rooms obviously have been updated, but the resort itself, those resorts have not gone through many changes. The Caribbean Beach looks like the old Caribbean Beach. French Quarter, Riverside, same deal. There's all the deluxe resorts have gone through lots of changes. Lots of things have been added. To me, one complaint you get about Poly is like the lobby doesn't feel like the old Poly lobby. Well, with Riverside, it was like my last summer. It was like the most kid Disney trip that I've had in a long time. If that makes any sense, like I felt like the 12 to 16-year-old me going on a Disney vacation. Just from the counter service to go and get my refill mug to walking around to the pool area, like the vibe of a moderate has that kind of old school Disney trip feel to it still. So I'm looking very forward to that. And I'm hoping because we did so much in March, it might lead to us spending a bit more resort time than we have in the past. I want to go to the pool. I want to go hang out around that area. We want to go see Yeehaw Bob.
Do you have like non-park days scheduled?
We don't have any non-park days scheduled, but we'll go to a park every day, but that doesn't mean we can't peel out early or skip it altogether, whatever. Yeah. But we will more than likely hit a park every day, but it doesn't mean we need to go open to close every day. We can go do some stuff through the afternoon. And
you can pace it.
It was kind of like the March trip on our last day to where we had done so much that instead of going to ride Test Track one more time, it was like, let's go to Summer House and get some cookies and take them home with us. And we all as a group went like, yeah, I've never been on a vacation before where the kids are like, let's skip a ride to go get food. We're at that age now to where that's an option. And I'm hoping that's a bit more option. I want to be able to go, at 7:00 while we're at the Magic Kingdom, we go, hey guys, y'all want to go see Yeehaw Bob tonight? And for them to go, yes. And we peel out and go spend, the next couple hours just in a lounge, listening to some fun music, having some food and drinks. So, I think we'll get to do that more on this trip than we have in the past.
Good. No, I mean, I think all of that is a good thing. Any other noteworthy things you're looking forward to on this particular trip?
I'm looking forward to the Country Bears and seeing.
Okay. Hate to break it to you.
What?
Yeah, you're not going to see them.
Huh? Oh, son of a bitch. If I don't get on Tiana, it will ruin my vacation. I will let them know that at customer service.
Okay. Throw a temper tantrum.
Yep, I will. No, there's not, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's a
thing.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, hope there was something cool and new. The last several summers was like, Tron or Guardians. We've done all that stuff a million times. We'll do it a million times more. But I think that it's weird. Like, this is probably the least stressed I've been going into a trip in
That's
a
also
long
nice.
time. Yeah, I'm not worried about boarding groups and this. Like, I know, first off, I know how to do all that. I don't have to. Yeah, it's like, so day one we can do it and not a big deal. But yeah, it's kind of cool to where it's just kind of chill. And it's been a long time since I've had just a chill Disney trip. It's not the most chill place in the world anymore, but I'm hoping we can kind of make it that way this time.
Excellent. So on that note, I think that's going to wrap this show. If you have any
do look forward to my trip report where it's just going to be like...
I've already started the outro, Ben.
I can't wait for just having the most miserable trip report ever now after this. Like, oh my God, everything was wrong. It sucked.
Ben will be working blue on the next show. If you have any questions or topic ideas, you can email us at martycalled@gmail.com. You can also follow us on X under the username @martycalled, or join in the discussions in our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/martycalled. That's where Ben tries to hit you up and has his entire family crash your cast member previews. We'd also appreciate it if you rated and reviewed the show on iTunes. Helps spread the word on the show and drives all of our international traffic. We're still pretty strong in Brazil and the Netherlands, but for people that don't wear high thongs and or wooden shoes, we're trying to reach out to you as well. So anything you guys can do to help us out there. Ben, where can we find you online?
You can find me on Twitter @backside_water. And I did forget to mention earlier, if any cast member does hook us up with a preview of Tiana's, you will get a song dedicated to you at the end of a future Marty Called episode.
And a week's DVC stay?
Yeah. You'll get my sister's points at...
You can find me on X under the username @InfernoBarge. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good one.
Peace.
You're my friend, Ben, you're my friend, you're the best old Ben there's ever